Dak Prescott is out with an ankle injury. Russell Wilson and Drew Brees are on a bye. And as of now, Cam Newton is still questionable with COVID. So who should fantasy managers start as their QB in week 6? Luckily, SI's fantasy analyst Michael Fabiano is joining me now for guidance. Fabs, which quarterbacks should fantasy owners have in their lineup this week?
I like Matthew Stafford. He is coming off a bye, and he's got a great matchup against the Jaguars. In the 2 games since he's had Kenny Galladay back, he's averaged over 20 fantasy points per game. That's good. The Jaguars' defense is not formidable at all. In fact, quarterbacks have averaged the 8th most points against them at 21.4 points per game. 3 quarterbacks have put up at least 24.8 points against them, and DK Sportsbook has this game at 53.5, so it should be a high-scoring affair. I also like Ryan Fitzpatrick. Why doesn't the beard get any respect? Since week 2, he's been one of the top quarterbacks in fantasy football. 4 straight games with over 20 fantasy points, and now he's got the Jets. Their franchise is an absolute mess right now, and it's a revenge game for Fitzpatrick. He's played for so many teams. I guess every week is a revenge game for the beard, but he is still not owned in 70% of leagues. So if you need a quarterback this week, pick him up and start him against the men in green.
I'm a fan of the beard and the outfits. I feel like we're all just waiting for Fitzpatrick to fail, but I think we need to just enjoy the Fitz magic, you know? All right, but let's talk about
this dates back to the middle of last year. He's been a top 10 fantasy quarterback since week 7 of 2019.
Exactly, and I think we're forgetting to realize that, but the beard is taking dominance. But Fabs, let's talk about the QBs that you think should take a seat on the bench this week.
I'm going to start off with Carson Wentz. Now, he's had a couple of good stat lines in a row from a fantasy perspective. Maybe hasn't played as well as the fantasy numbers would indicate, but he's got a really bad matchup this week at home against Baltimore. Their defense has been very tough on quarterbacks, allowing an average of just 13.3 fantasy points per game since the start of last season to that position. And this is also a very banged-up offensive line in Philadelphia. They've given up 19 sacks and 44 quarterback pressures. That's not good when you're facing Baltimore. And then Baker Mayfield. Like, the Browns are winning games, so the fans are happy, but Mayfield's fantasy numbers are not all that good. Kaitlin, he has not scored 16 fantasy points in 1 game so far this season. He's got Pittsburgh this week at the Big Catch-Up Bottle. Since the beginning of last year, quarterbacks have averaged fewer than 14 fantasy points per game against Pittsburgh on their home field. And Mayfield's also ranked tied for 26th in pass attempts. What does that mean? They're running the ball a lot in Cleveland.
Yeah, not going up against that Steelers D. I don't see it happening. For more advice and Sports Illustrated's award-winning weekly player rankings, get your membership to SI Fantasy Plus for just $14.99 a month.